Ladies, let me tell you this. A good woman, the kind of woman who stands in her truth, who knows her worth, who isn't afraid to rise after every fall, she always wins. You see, winning is not about a title, a trophy, or someone's validation. It's about the power that comes from within. Let me share a secret with you all. In a world where people try to dim your light, where they want you to shrink to fit their idea of who you should be, there's something about a woman who refuses to bend that makes her unstoppable. A good woman doesn't just survive, she thrives. It's the quiet strength in her soul that radiates beyond her looks, beyond her status, beyond her job title. It's in her essence. When you stand tall, grounded in who you truly are, the world has no choice but to acknowledge your power. It's the kind of power that comes from self-respect, self-love, and a fierce sense of purpose. But let me be clear, the road to victory isn't always easy. There will be challenges, there will be setbacks, and there will be people who try to tear you down. But you know what? They don't win. Because a good woman knows that her journey is not defined by the obstacles in her path. It's defined by how she chooses to rise every time she falls. So I want you to listen carefully, because today we are going to talk about what makes a good woman a winner in a world that often underestimates her power. And by the end of this, you will believe in the greatness that lies within you. Just as I believe in it, a good woman knows her worth. And when I say that, I mean truly understanding the depths of your value. Deep down to your very core. It's not about what society tells you. It's not about what others think or expect of you. It's about what you know in your heart, what you feel in your soul. How many of us have spent time chasing validation? How many of us have looked for approval from people who were never meant to see our greatness? Too many of us. We've all done it. I know I've done it. We've let ourselves shrink. We've let ourselves doubt. All because we were looking for someone else to tell us we were worthy. But here's the thing. If you don't recognize your worth, no one else will. Think about this. When you know your worth, you walk into every situation differently. You hold your head a little higher, your shoulders back a little straighter. People can feel it, whether they acknowledge it or not. You become magnetic because you don't apologize for who you are. You don't shrink away. You stand firm in the knowledge that you are enough. And the world has to accept that. And let me tell you, when you step into that space, when you truly understand your value, the whole world shifts. You stop looking for validation from others because you've already given it to yourself. It's like a breath of fresh air. Your energy changes. Your mindset changes. You become unstoppable. Let me give you an example. Think about a woman who's just started her career. She's new, maybe unsure of herself at first, a little hesitant, but deep down she knows she has the talent, the drive, and the determination to make it. However, there's a problem. She constantly feels overlooked. Her ideas are dismissed in meetings, her contributions aren't recognized. She starts questioning herself. Am I not good enough? Am I not doing enough? She goes home after work exhausted, and for a moment she begins to doubt everything. But one day something shifts. She starts to ask herself, wait, why am I doubting myself? What do they have that I don't? She remembers who she is. She remembers her accomplishments. She remembers the times when she's pushed through challenges that no one else saw. That's the moment she finds her power. From that day forward, she doesn't let the dismissals or the rejections bother her. She knows that she belongs. She doesn't wait for anyone to tell her she's good enough because she already knows. And you know what happens next? People start to see it too. They notice the change in her energy. They notice that she's not looking for approval anymore because she's already confident in her own abilities. The validation she once craved now comes to her naturally because she no longer needs to beg for it. She has become a force to be reckoned with. I think this is what happens when a woman knows her worth. It's like an awakening. And the beauty of it is, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks of you. Your worth is not determined by their opinions. It's determined by you. You don't need anyone's approval to be amazing, to be worthy of love, to be worthy of success, and to be worthy of happiness. The moment you internalize that truth, your entire life transforms. Let me tell you about a woman who was stuck in a toxic relationship. She had been giving everything to her partner. Her time, her love, her patience. But all she received in return was emotional exhaustion. He would belittle her, make her feel small, make her feel like she was never enough. For a long time, she kept thinking, maybe I'm not trying hard enough. Maybe I'm not good enough for him. She started doubting herself. She started losing her sense of worth. But then, one day, she had enough. She looked in the mirror and asked herself, how long will I let this continue? How long will I allow someone to make me feel less than I am? And that's when she realized something crucial. Her value wasn't tied to how he treated her. Her worth wasn't defined by his rejection. It was defined by how she treated herself. So she walked away. She found her strength in her decision, and from that moment, she never looked back. That was the day she recognized her worth. And it wasn't just about leaving a relationship. It was about reclaiming herself. It was about saying, I deserve better. I am worthy of respect, of love, of everything I dream of. And I won't settle for less than that. She didn't let her past define her. She knew that her worth was inherent, something no one could take away from her, not even the person who once made her feel small. You see, knowing your worth doesn't just affect how others see you, it affects how you see yourself. It affects the way you treat yourself, the way you carry yourself, and the way you approach every aspect of life. When you truly understand your value, you stop accepting less than what you deserve. You stop allowing toxic people or situations to drain you. You start making choices that reflect your worth, and those choices align you with the life you are meant to have. So I ask you this, are you ready to know your worth? Are you ready to stop doubting yourself, to stop second guessing, to stop looking for validation? Because once you step into that power, once you really embrace the fact that you are worthy of every single good thing that comes your way, you will see everything in your life change. It all starts with you. It starts with knowing that you are enough, just as you are, and there's nothing or no one that can take that away from you. When you realize your worth, that's when you truly begin to live. She is unapologetically herself. Now let me ask you this, how many of us have ever felt the pressure to fit in? How many times have we adjusted ourselves to meet the expectations of others, to make them comfortable, to be liked? We've all done it. We've all tried to shrink ourselves into boxes that weren't made for us, hoping to be accepted, hoping to be approved of. But here's the harsh reality. You were never meant to fit into someone else's mold. You were born to stand out. You were born to be unapologetically yourself. And that's the power you need to step into. Imagine this. There's a woman who's been living her life on everyone else's terms. She listens to everyone's opinions, her parents, her friends, her colleagues, because she thinks she needs their approval to move forward. She wants to be liked. She wants to be accepted. So, she changes the way she dresses, she changes the way she talks, she changes the way she behaves, all to fit in, or to be seen in the way others want to see her. But every time she looks in the mirror, something feels off. There's this emptiness inside her. She's not happy. She's not free. She's suffocating under the weight of everyone else's expectations. One day, she has an epiphany. She realizes that she's been living someone else's life, not her own. And the moment she accepts this truth, everything changes. She begins to realize that being unapologetically herself is the most powerful thing she could ever do. No more hiding, no more pretending. She takes a deep breath and decides, I am enough, just as I am. That moment of realization is liberating. It's a breath of fresh air. And from that point on, she refuses to shrink herself to fit into a space that was never meant for her. She starts wearing what makes her feel confident. She starts speaking her mind without the fear of judgment. She starts setting boundaries and stops apologizing for her dreams. She stops dimming her light to make others feel comfortable. And as she does this, the world begins to take notice. People see the real her, raw, authentic, unapologetic. And they are drawn to her not because she's trying to be someone she's not, but because she has the courage to be herself. Let me tell you, there is power in being unapologetically yourself. It's a magnet. People will either love you for it or walk away from you. And you know what? That's okay, because when you're unapologetically yourself, you attract the right people. The ones who see your worth, the ones who respect your uniqueness. And the ones who can't handle it, they don't deserve a place in your life. Think about someone like a woman who's been told her entire life that she needs to act a certain way to succeed. Maybe she's been told she's too emotional, too loud, too bold, or too different. She's been told to calm down, to soften her voice, to shrink her dreams. But she refuses. She refuses to apologize for her power. She embraces her emotions. She embraces her strength. She embraces her quirks. She knows that her individuality is her greatest asset. And she won't let anyone take that away from her. One day, she's in a meeting at work and everyone's trying to push her into a corner, dismissing her ideas because they're too much. They tell her, you're too passionate, you're too bold, maybe you should tone it down. But she stands tall. She doesn't apologize for her enthusiasm. She doesn't apologize for her creativity. Instead, she amplifies her voice, she fights for her ideas, and she knows that the world needs to hear her. And guess what happens? People start respecting her. People start listening. She begins to lead not because she conformed to what others wanted her to be, but because she stayed true to herself. The very things that once made her feel out of place are now the things that make her a leader. Her authenticity becomes her strength. It's the same with relationships. How many of us have found ourselves trying to be someone we're not to please a partner? Maybe we suppress our opinions, hide our desires, or deny our passions just to keep the peace. But deep down we feel that something is off, that something isn't right. That's because the truth is, if you can't be unapologetically yourself in a relationship, then you're not in the right relationship. A healthy relationship is one where both partners are free to be their true selves without fear of judgment. A good partner won't ask you to change who you are. They'll love you for who you are. And when you realize that you deserve nothing less, you stop apologizing for being yourself. Let's talk about a woman who's been through heartbreak. She's been hurt, she's been betrayed, and after all that pain, there's a part of her that starts to feel broken. Starts to feel like maybe she should change, maybe she should hide her heart, maybe she should close herself off. But one day she looks in the mirror and says, I am not my past, I am not the mistakes that others have made, I am not the heartbreak that I've endured, I am me, and that's enough. She refuses to apologize for her scars because they are part of her journey. They are a testament to her strength, to her resilience, and she wears them proudly. You see, being unapologetically yourself doesn't mean being perfect. It means accepting all of you, your flaws, your imperfections, your quirks, and your brilliance, and refusing to apologize for any of it. It means showing up in the world exactly as you are, with all of your passion, all of your fire, and all of your authenticity. It means letting go of the need for approval and choosing to live for you. And when you do this, when you step into your truth, you will see the world change around you. You will see people who once tried to bring you down start to respect you. You will see opportunities open up that you never thought possible. You will see your life transformed, because when you stop apologizing for who you are, the universe starts rewarding you with everything you've ever dreamed of. And that, my friends, is the power of being unapologetically yourself. She builds, she doesn't tear down. Now think about that for a second. How often do we hear stories about women tearing each other down? How often do we see gossip, jealousy, or competition masquerading as friendship? Too often, right? It's easy to get caught up in tearing others down because it makes us feel powerful. It makes us feel in control for a fleeting moment. But let me tell you something that every woman needs to hear. True power comes from building, not from destroying. There's a story of a woman who's been working hard to climb the ladder of success. She's focused, she's determined, and she's not afraid to take risks. But there's always someone who seems to be in her way, someone who criticizes her ideas, someone who tries to take credit for her work, someone who mocks her every step. For a while, she gets frustrated. She's tempted to fight back, to tear them down, to expose their flaws and make them feel small the way they've tried to make her feel. But then in a moment of clarity, she realizes that the path she's on doesn't require her to lower herself to their level. Her greatness doesn't come from tearing others apart. It comes from building herself up and letting her actions speak louder than their words. She focuses on her goals, her vision, and the work that she needs to do to succeed. Instead of wasting time on negativity, she channels her energy into creating something amazing. She doesn't let the small-minded people distract her. She knows that when you build for the future. Her energy becomes focused on growth, on lifting herself and others up, on supporting those who are worthy of support, not on engaging in petty drama. And when people see this, when they see her strength, her resilience, they can't help but respect her. She becomes unstoppable not because she's fighting against others, but because she's creating something no one can touch. Let me tell you about another woman. She's a mother, working hard to raise her children on her own. She's been through heartbreak, through loss, through struggle. But every single day, she gets up, she smiles, and she does what needs to be done. She could easily focus on the negativity, on the unfairness of it all, on the challenges she faces, on the obstacles that life keeps throwing at her. But she doesn't. She chooses to build. She builds a life for her children. She builds her career. She builds her own inner strength. Even when the world tells her she's not enough. Even when the people around her doubt her, she builds. And in that process, she shows her children what true strength is. She doesn't need to tear anyone down to succeed. She simply focuses on what's in her control and rises above the noise. Now think about this. How often do we see women tearing each other down in the workplace? How often do we hear the stories of women who, instead of lifting each other up, decide to make things harder for their colleagues? Maybe it's because of competition, maybe it's because of insecurity, maybe it's because of jealousy. But in the end, it all boils down to the same thing. Fear. Fear not being enough. Fear of not succeeding. But here's the truth. You don't have to tear others down to build yourself up. There's a woman at work who's been overlooked for a promotion time and time again. Her colleague, who is constantly getting praise, is someone she's known for a while, and to be honest, it's hard to watch them succeed while she feels stuck. For a moment, she considers tearing them down. Maybe spreading rumors or finding something wrong with their work just to get ahead. But deep down, she knows that if she wants to succeed, it can't be at someone else's expense. She knows that true success comes from collaboration, from lifting others up, from supporting each other. So instead of focusing on her colleagues' weaknesses, she focuses on her own strengths. She develops her skills, she works harder, she takes risks, and soon she's recognized for her abilities. People take notice of her work ethic, her positive attitude, her willingness to help others, and her integrity. And guess what happens next? She gets promoted. Her success isn't born out of gossip, out of jealousy, out of trying to destroy someone else's reputation. It comes from her own dedication, her own commitment to building herself up, and her commitment to creating an environment where people can succeed together. When you focus on building instead of tearing down, the universe rewards you. But it's not just about professional life. Let's talk about the personal realm for a moment. Think about a friendship where one woman is constantly belittling the other. Maybe she's jealous of her friend's success, or maybe she's insecure about her own life. Whatever the reason, she's tearing her friend down with every word, every action. The other woman, however, doesn't retaliate. She doesn't stoop to her level. Instead, she chooses to build her own happiness. She focuses on the things she can control, her thoughts, her actions, her future. She doesn't engage in the drama. She doesn't let the negativity define her. Instead, she continues to be kind. She continues to build her life. And over time, she realizes that building yourself up is the only thing that matters. What happens? The friendship changes. The toxic energy begins to fade away. When you build, you attract others who are also builders. People who want to see you succeed. People who want to lift you up, not tear you down. And that is when you truly find your tribe. You see? Building doesn't just apply to your career or your relationships. It applies to how you view yourself. A good woman doesn't tear herself down with negative self-talk, with self-doubt, or with self-criticism. Instead, she chooses to build herself up every single day. She acknowledges her flaws but doesn't let them define her. She works on her strengths. She celebrates her successes and she forgives herself for her mistakes. She knows that every small effort she makes to build herself up today will pay off tomorrow. And in the process, she shows others that it's possible to build, to rise, and to succeed without tearing anyone down along the way. When you choose to build, you don't need to tear down to stand tall. You become a force for good, a force that inspires others to do the same. Building is a mindset. It's an energy. And when you choose to build instead of destroy, you create a life that's unstoppable. She embraces vulnerability. It's a powerful statement, isn't it? A concept so simple, yet so misunderstood. Society has taught us that vulnerability is weakness, that it's something to hide, to mask, to protect at all costs. We're taught to put on a brave face, to act like we've got it all together, to show only the parts of ourselves that fit neatly into society's expectations of strength. But here's the truth. Vulnerability is not weakness. Vulnerability is power. And a good woman knows this. Let me tell you about a woman named Sarah. She's a mother, a businesswoman, a friend, and a daughter. She's juggling everything, trying to keep her family life intact, pushing through the challenges of her career, trying to be the perfect friend, the perfect daughter. But despite all her achievements, Sarah has been carrying a weight on her shoulders that no one sees. She's been battling with her own emotions, her self-doubt, the fear of failure, the fear of letting others down. So for the longest time, she kept it all hidden. She was afraid of being seen as weak, afraid of showing that she wasn't invincible, afraid that people might think less of her. One day, as she sat in her car after a long day, she looked at herself in the rearview mirror. She felt like a failure, like she wasn't living up to the expectations of everyone around her. But in that moment, something inside her shifted. She realized that being vulnerable wasn't a sign of failure. It was the beginning of her power. She decided to take a deep breath and let herself feel. She allowed herself to cry, to admit that she wasn't okay, that she needed help. For the first time in a long while, she stopped pretending to be perfect. She called her friend, admitted she needed support, and allowed herself to lean on others. And you know what? The world didn't crumble around her. The more vulnerable she allowed herself to be, the stronger she became. Satya's story is not unique. It's something many women experience. We live in a world that tells us that if we're vulnerable, we're weak. We've been conditioned to hide our emotions, to lock them away in a box, and to pretend that everything is fine, even when it's not. But here's the truth. We are human, and as humans, we experience the full spectrum of emotions. Joy, sadness, fear, anger, love. And every single one of those emotions is valid. Your vulnerability is not your weakness. It's your superpower. Think about it for a moment. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you open the door to true connection. How many times have you felt alone, thinking that no one else could possibly understand what you're going through? But then, when you finally open up to someone, when you share your fears, your struggles, your heart, suddenly that person sees you. And in that moment you realize that you're not alone. You know, you're not the only one who's struggling, who's hurting, who's afraid. We all have our battles, our wounds, our scars. But it's in those moments of vulnerability that we connect with others in the most profound way. Tell me that I is okay. Let me share another story, one that's close to my heart. A woman named Jessica had always been the strong one, the one everyone could rely on, the one who had her life together, who never let her emotions show. But inside, she was breaking. She had just gone through a painful divorce, and she was left feeling empty, unsure of herself, and lost. For months, she put on a brave face, pretending to be fine. But one night, after a conversation with a close friend, Jessica realized that pretending was exhausting. It was draining her. She decided to take the leap. She let go of the need to be perfect and embraced her vulnerability. She allowed herself to grieve, to admit that she wasn't okay, and to ask for help. At first, it felt terrifying. It felt like she was stepping into the unknown, exposing the rawest parts of herself to the world, but something miraculous happened. As she shared her story, as she opened up about her pain, her fears, and her hopes for the future, people started showing up for her in ways she never imagined. Friends reached out to comfort her, to share their own stories of struggle, to remind her that she wasn't alone. What Jessica discovered was that vulnerability doesn't just build connections, it builds community. When you allow yourself to be real, to be raw, to be vulnerable, you give others permission to do the same. And in that space, something magical happens. You stop carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders alone. You stop holding on to the belief that you have to be perfect in order to be loved or accepted. You start to see that your imperfections are what make you human. And when you embrace those imperfections, you open yourself up to true love, true connection, and true growth. But it's not just about opening up to others. Vulnerability is about opening up to yourself. It's about looking in the mirror and acknowledging the parts of yourself that you've been hiding, the parts of yourself that you've been ashamed of or afraid to face. Maybe it's the fear of failure. Maybe it's the insecurity that you're not enough. Maybe it's the guilt of making mistakes. Whatever it is, when you embrace vulnerability, you make space for healing. You make space for growth, for understanding, for self-compassion. So I ask you, when was the last time you allowed yourself to be vulnerable? When was the last time you took off your armor, let down your walls, and allowed yourself to feel? The next time you find yourself struggling, remember that vulnerability isn't something to hide from. It's something to embrace. Because in that vulnerability, you will find your strength. You will find your power. And you will find that you are never truly alone. She chooses her battles wisely. It sounds simple, doesn't it? A phrase we've heard 1,000 times before, but when you really break it down, when you start to understand the depth of it, you realize how powerful it is. The truth is, every day we face countless decisions, situations, and interactions that require us to decide. Is this worth my energy? Is this worth my time? Is this worth my peace? And a good woman knows that she doesn't need to fight every fight. She doesn't need to engage in every argument, every drama, or every conflict that comes her way. Instead, she takes a step back and asks herself, what really matters? Let me tell you a story about a woman named Maria. Maria was a successful entrepreneur. She had built her business from the ground up, facing every challenge and obstacle imaginable. But what set Maria apart was not just her drive, not just her intellect, but her ability to pick her battles. In the world of business, there's always someone ready to criticize, to challenge, or to make things personal. There are always people who want to engage in petty office politics, to drag you into gossip or drama. Then Maria, well, she knew better than to get involved in that nonsense. One day, a colleague of hers, let's call him John, started a rumor about Maria. It was completely untrue, and it could have seriously damaged her reputation. Most people would have immediately gone to HR, called him out, maybe even escalated the situation. But Maria, in her infinite wisdom, didn't take the bait. She didn't waste her energy fighting this battle. Instead, she smiled, kept her head high, and focused on her work. She knew that engaging with John would only lower her vibration, drag her down to his level. She chose her battle wisely. She let the rumor die on its own because in the end, the truth always has a way of revealing itself. Now let's be clear. Choosing your battles doesn't mean being passive or allowing people to walk all over you. It doesn't mean you don't stand up for yourself. It means you're strategic about where you direct your energy. It means that not every disagreement is worth your time, and not every insult is worth responding to. When you choose your battles wisely, you conserve your emotional energy for the things that matter most. You save your strength for the fights that will move you forward, that will shape you into a better version of yourself. Take, for example, a woman named Ava. Ava was a mother, a daughter, a wife, and a friend. She had a full life filled with responsibilities and commitments. But Ava's life was not without its challenges. Her mother was constantly critical of her parenting style. Her husband sometimes didn't fully understand the demands of her career. And there were always friends who needed her support, who expected her to be the rock in their lives. Ava had the weight of the world on her shoulders. And at one point, it felt like every issue, every person was demanding her attention. She was stretched thin, emotionally exhausted and overwhelmed. But Ava had a moment of clarity one day. She realized she couldn't fight every battle. She couldn't please everyone. And she didn't have to. So she decided to prioritize. She chose the battles that would make her stronger, the battles that aligned with her values and her purpose. She learned to say no when people tried to pull her into unnecessary drama. She stopped engaging in arguments that had no resolution, and instead she focused on what truly mattered: her family, her career, and her personal growth. Ava began to feel a sense of freedom she hadn't experienced before. She had let go of the pressure to be everything to everyone. She had stopped trying to win every argument, to fix every problem. And as a result, her relationships improved, her work flourished, and she found peace. Choosing her battles wisely was the key to her happiness. And then there's Emma, who had a completely different struggle. Emma was a student, juggling her education, a part-time job, and the pressure of living up to her parents' high expectations. She had a lot of people telling her what she should do, who she should be, and how she should live her life. She found herself constantly questioning her decisions, second-guessing every move she made. At one day, after a long conversation with a close friend, Emma realized something life-changing. She had been fighting everyone else's battles but her own. Emma had been caught up in pleasing her parents, impressing her professors, and meeting the expectations of everyone around her. But the truth was, she wasn't living for herself. She was running on empty, trying to meet all these outside expectations, and she had lost sight of her own dreams. Emma realized she had to stop fighting everyone else's battles and focus on her own. She made a decision that day she would no longer bend to the pressure to be someone she wasn't. She started making choices based on her own values, her own desires, her own vision for her future. And when she did, she felt liberated. She stopped chasing approval and started chasing her own happiness. By choosing her battles wisely, she was able to carve out a life that truly aligned with who she was meant to be. Now let's bring this into your own life. How many times have you fought battles that didn't even matter? How many times have you wasted your energy on people who weren't worth your time? How many times have you engaged in arguments that took you away from your true purpose? I want you to think about this. Life is short. We don't have time to waste on unnecessary drama, on people who don't value us, on situations that don't serve us. You have a limited amount of emotional energy. Every time you engage in a petty argument, every time you try to prove yourself to someone who doesn't deserve your time, you're draining that energy. And when you drain your energy on things that don't matter, you have less left for the things that do. A good woman knows this. She knows that her time, her energy, her peace are precious. She knows that by choosing her battles wisely, she's not only protecting her own well-being, but also ensuring that the fights she does engage in are the ones that truly matter. She doesn't waste her time on what ifs or could have beens. She chooses the battles that align with her purpose, with her dreams, with the life she's working to build. And that, my friends, is where her true power lies. She practices self-love. Let those words sink in for a moment. We hear them often, but how many of us truly understand the depth of what self-love means? It's not just about taking bubble baths or giving yourself a treat yourself day. No, self-love goes much deeper than that. It's about respecting yourself, honoring your worth, and making the decision every single day to treat yourself with kindness, compassion, and understanding. It's about recognizing that you, as a person, are deserving of love. Not because you're perfect, but because you are uniquely you. Let me take you into the life of a woman named Lily. Lily had always been the one to put others first. Her family, her friends, her colleagues, all came before her own needs. She would bend over backward to help others, sacrificing her own happiness, health, and well-being in the process. For years, Lily ran on empty, giving all of herself to others, but never taking the time to nurture herself. She thought this was the right thing to do. She thought that by constantly being there for others, she would earn love and validation. But one day, Lily hit a breaking point. She was overwhelmed, exhausted, and emotionally drained. It felt like the weight of the world was on her shoulders, and no one was there to help her carry it. It was in this moment of utter exhaustion that she realized something incredibly important. She couldn't keep pouring from an empty cup. She couldn't continue to be there for others if she wasn't first there for herself. It was in that moment that Lily made a decision, a life-changing decision. She decided that self-love had to be her priority. She started putting herself first, and it was the most revolutionary thing she could ever do. Lily began small. She started with simple things. She allowed herself to rest when she was tired instead of pushing through. She started eating nourishing foods instead of grabbing fast food on the go, and she began to set boundaries with people who drained her energy. But the most important change Lily made was in her mindset. She stopped believing that she had to be perfect to deserve love. She stopped waiting for others to validate her worth. Lily recognized that she, on her own, was enough. She deserved love just because she existed. And once she realized that, everything started to change. The relationships she had with others shifted. She no longer allowed people to treat her poorly. And she stopped apologizing for taking care of herself. She embraced her flaws, her imperfections, and all the things that made her uniquely her. She practiced self-love every day, and it transformed her life. Let me share another story, this one about a woman named Sarah. Sarah was an athlete, highly disciplined, and always pushing herself to the limit. But despite her physical achievements, Sarah struggled deeply with her self-worth. She looked at her body as a project to improve, something that was never good enough. She compared herself to others, always feeling like she didn't measure up. In her mind, if she wasn't performing at the highest level, she wasn't worthy of love or success. Today, after a grueling training session, Saram sat down and started to reflect. She was exhausted, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. She realized something profound. She had been treating her body like an enemy, not a partner. She had been pushing it to the point of exhaustion, never appreciating it for all the hard work it did for her. She was so focused on perfection that she never gave herself credit for the progress she had made. It was then that Sarah decided to change her approach. She started practicing self-love by honoring her body, not punishing it. She learned to listen to her body's signals and to rest when she needed it. She started to see her body as a source of strength and beauty, not as something to fix. And as she began to love and respect her body, she became stronger, not just physically, but emotionally too. Self-love wasn't about being perfect. It was about accepting yourself fully and embracing your own journey. And then there's Jessica, a woman who struggled with her self-image. For years she thought she wasn't pretty enough, smart enough, or talented enough to go after her dreams. She would scroll through social media, comparing herself to others, feeling like she was always falling short. But Jessica had an epiphany one morning as she stared into the mirror, critical of every imperfection she saw. She realized that all the negative self-talk had held her back from pursuing her goals. She wasn't going to let her own inner voice tell her she wasn't enough anymore. She chose to be her own biggest supporter, not her own biggest critic. Jessica started practicing self-love by shifting her thoughts. When she looked in the mirror, instead of focusing on what she didn't like, she focused on what she loved. She began to appreciate the strength in her body, the wisdom in her mind, and the kindness in her heart. She stopped looking for validation from external sources and started to validate herself. She stopped apologizing for taking up space in this world. And as she did, something incredible happened. The way others saw her shifted too. People started noticing her confidence, her aura, and her strength. She started to go after her dreams, without fear, without hesitation, because she knew deep down that she was worthy. Self-love isn't a destination. It's a practice, an ongoing journey. It's about making the conscious choice every single day to love yourself, to take care of yourself, to honor yourself. It's about realizing that you are deserving of peace, joy, success, and love. Not because of what you do, but because of who you are. You are worthy of your own love, and that's the most powerful gift you can give yourself. Every time you choose to show yourself kindness, to be gentle with your heart, to speak positively to yourself, you are practicing self-love. And when you practice self-love, you attract more love into your life. You begin to create a life that is filled with joy, fulfillment, and peace, because you are no longer dependent on others to make you feel worthy. You are already whole. You are already enough. And now, as we stand at the crossroads of our own journeys, let me remind you of one undeniable truth. You are the masterpiece of your own story. Every decision, every moment of triumph, and every setback has been a part of your unique creation. Never forget that your worth is not determined by anyone's approval or by any societal standard. Your worth is innate. It has been with you since the day you were born. And once you realize this, once you truly understand that you are the architect of your own life, you will stop waiting for permission to be great. You will stop asking for validation. You will stop apologizing for your brilliance. Do you know why you're powerful? Because your voice matters. Your presence matters. You matter. When you walk into a room, it should feel like the world just became a little brighter. When you speak, let your words carry weight. Let your thoughts shape the future. Let your actions create a ripple effect of change. Because when a woman decides to rise, there's nothing more unstoppable than that. And trust me, the world is waiting for the woman you are destined to become. Remember this, the most powerful women are not those who never fall, but those who rise every single time they fall. Success is not for the faint-hearted, it's for those who are resilient. It's for those who believe that even in the darkest moments, they are just one step away from their breakthrough. Because strength isn't built in comfort, it's built in the fire. You, my friend, are forged in fire. You are made of strength, grace, and an unbreakable spirit. You've been given a life full of possibilities, and it's time to claim them. The only limits that exist are the ones you place on yourself. So why not shatter those limits? Why not believe that your dreams are not just dreams? They are your future waiting to unfold. When you step into your true power, you become a force that cannot be ignored. Your actions will speak louder than any words could, and the world will have no choice but to listen. And let's talk about failure for a second. Failure is not your enemy, it is your greatest teacher. Every successful person you've ever admired has fallen, stumbled and failed, but the difference is they refuse to stay down. They understood that failure is not a reflection of their worth, it's merely a stepping stone to something greater. So fall forward, my friend. Let every failure be a lesson, and let every lesson bring you closer to your victory. Here's the thing that will set you apart from the rest. You don't need to seek permission from others to succeed. The moment you realize this, you become unstoppable. People will try to dim your light, but your light will refuse to be extinguished. Your power lies in your ability to trust yourself, to walk in your own truth and to hold your head high. The world needs women who are unapologetically bold, confident and authentic. The world needs women who will not settle for mediocrity, who will not allow their worth to be defined by the opinions of others. The world needs you, and the time to step into your greatness is now. So don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait for things to be easier, because they never will be. The perfect moment is the one you create with your own hands. The perfect moment is when you decide to go for it, despite the fear, despite the challenges. Don't let your dreams remain dreams. Take them, mold them, make them your reality. Remember, you are more powerful than you think. And the moment you realize that is the moment everything changes. The moment you stop doubting yourself, stop questioning your potential, and start believing in your ability to create the life you desire, you will become an unstoppable force. You will begin to live a life that others can only dream of, because you will refuse to settle for anything less than extraordinary. So my dear, rise. Rise with purpose. Rise with confidence. Rise with the understanding that you are a force of nature, capable of achieving the impossible. And when you rise, you will bring the world with you. You are the change you have been waiting for, and you will always win. The universe is watching, waiting for you to step into your power, and when you do, the world will never be the same. Because a good woman always wins, and you, my friend, are exactly that. A woman destined to win.